Hey guys, Kid Panda here again. We're going to do another PCB collection vid. This will be the second video of the series, I guess. Actually got a little more set up, so we're going to go through another set of boards. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 boards out today, and they're actually all out, so I don't have to go digging them out of the box and such and unwrapping them from the anti-static wrap. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I guess the first one we'll start with is this one right here. This one is Gunbird. I picked this one up. It was one of the first PCBs I picked up. I got a pretty good deal. Psycho shooter. Actually preferred this one over the second one. A little tough. It's a little cheap. But definitely one of the better ones. This is the second time I've had this board. I actually sold it locally, I guess probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and the buyer played it, didn't care for it at all, and all jokes aside, he literally just gave it back to me. I actually traded some stuff with him for it, so it's back in my possession now again. Pretty good game. I play it on every once in a while. One of my other buddies, usually when he comes over, he always wants to play a couple credits of it, so we'll sit down and usually play through it or whatever. So that's Gunbird. Next one we have is, I think, the first of this company's games. I've actually started to really fall in love with their games. They are hard as nails, but here we go. This one is from Cebu. It is Raiden 2, or Raiden 2, depending on who you are and how you want to pronounce it. This one's a good, nice, clean board. Got this one relatively cheap. Got it a while ago. I play this from time to time. I actually prefer this one over the first Raiden. The Raiden series in general, whether it be one of the fighter series or even the old ones, are pretty much hard as nails. Actually, I remember playing this for the first time on the Raiden project for the PlayStation 1, and when I started collecting PCBs, I figured, let's go and see how much this one is. So I actually scooped this one up on eBay for a pretty good price. Came in and it was fine, worked fine, no issues or whatever. So, and it still has the battery. I'm not really too sure about how the battery works, if it can actually still work without the battery or whatever. I probably should look that up so it doesn't corrode all over the place. But there's Raiden 2. Alright, here's another Taito game. Taito, or however you want to pronounce it. This one I played quite a bit when I was younger. I actually played its granddaddy of it all, but this is Arkanoid. This is the third one I've owned. The first two I had, I actually bought 2 at one time. A guy had, and they were untested, and I bought both of them for $25. So I went ahead and bought both of those and ended up setting up a cabinet for a buddy of mine, and I kept one, and then I actually got an offer to buy it, so I sold that one, and then I picked this one up again. I still don't have a spinner for myself, so I do know that it does work, but if you remember from the Legend of Kage video that I did earlier, this one also has that really strange pin header, which is once again for power. I have no idea why it's like that. It's one of the silliest things I've ever seen, but it's Taito, and that's what they do. Alright. Next up is an Atari game. I picked this one up because I actually played this on the Lynx a lot and kind of fell in love with this, so when this popped up for actual arcade PCB, I figured I'd go ahead and scoop it real fast. The board layout's kind of strange. Now that I'm looking at it, one of the pin headers actually has a pin either taken out or busted out one. Nope, okay, the pin just isn't supposed to be in there. So this one is Clax. I do have the manual with this. I have played it, and it's actually pretty fun. My girlfriend actually gets pretty angry and upset at it, but she plays it still. One thing that's very strange, though, is the heatsink is really large on this thing. Very odd-shaped heatsink that I've never seen before on any of the boards I have. So I don't know if that's an Atari thing. This is the only Atari board that I actually own, outside of a Primal Rage that I did have, but I ended up giving that away. So, but it's Clax. It's a puzzle game. It's really good, really fast-paced and hectic. Somewhat similar, I guess, to Tetris is the best way to describe it. Check out some vids. It's actually a pretty unique game. Link's version is pretty much spot on, as is the Genesis version and the Nintendo. Not really graphically intensive game, but it's a puzzle game, so it works pretty good. Next up is another CPS2 game. This one I picked up pretty recently. I had never played it. It's another game in a series, and I sat down after I picked it up and started playing it. I thought it was absolutely awesome. It is a CPS2 game, and it's 19XX. I should probably check the battery in it. I don't remember if it has a battery, or if it was Phoenix. I'm not too sure, so I should probably check that out. But it's 19XX. Really top shelf shooter. Pretty tough too. My buddy's come over a couple times and we played through it several times. He actually really digs it, really gets into it. So it's part of the 19 series. So I went ahead and scooped this one. Probably the only one I'll never own is 1942. It's just too old and too slow for me, and just not fun at all. But I got this one at a pretty good deal, so I figured I'd go and snag this one too. Alright, here's another pretty unique one. This is another Taito board that I have. I actually have two of them. One of them is actually pretty much dedicated, as far as, you know. The other one I have is empty, but this one usually always has this game in it. But this is a Taito G-Net motherboard. It does have Shikigami no Shiro actually in the slot right now. This pretty much stays Shikigami because it's mainly the one game I actually play on there. The other board I have, usually I switch out with other stuff. I have, actually I can pull out the other cards. But I wanted to talk about this board real quick because it's actually pretty unique in how it's set up. This bottom board is actually a Sony motherboard. This was used also by Capcom, so your Strider 2 is going to use this board. I think it's a Sony ZN1, I believe. Hold on, let me double check. Well, I really don't see on it where it is, but I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Someone could probably better tell me. I probably need to look that up at some point. But the bottom board is a Sony. Taito actually did. This is the G-Net, so you have the G-Net PCB. Also, I'm not too sure, but I've heard rumors and I've seen pics that there's actually, instead of having the card slot, which is actually a PCMCIA card, same as a notebook card pretty much, there was actually a ROM attachment, like a CD-ROM attachment. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a version of G Darius that actually ran on that hardware or whatever. So this is Taito G-Net. I'll go ahead and go get the other cards, and I'll show you the other cards that I have for this as well. One of the other games I have is actually Cyverior Medium Unit, which was really the main reason why I even got the G-Net hardware in the first place. I also have Weather Tales. Have not even played that. It's just a puzzle game, so I'll probably give it a whirl at some point. Then I have Cyverior Revision, which was one of the reasons why I even ended up with a second motherboard. And then also I got a pretty unique game out of it, and at one point I was actually trying to get rid of it, but I think I'm just going to keep it just because it's kind of rare from what I understand. And it is Ray Crisis. Ray Crisis was also released on the PlayStation 1. The only really difference that I am aware of as far as the arcade version versus the home console version is the arcade version does in fact have 2 players at the same time. So this is a pretty unique card. I've played it a couple times, I've lent it out a couple times, and I think I'm just going to keep it. Pretty much at one point I was trying to move it out, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and keep that. So, pretty impressive hardware. I definitely like all the games for it. Definitely all the shooties for them seem to kind of have this quote-unquote buzz system allowed to them, basically from Cyverior. Shikigami no Shiro also kind of does the same thing. Bullet scratching is really big in those titles, and if you're not aware with bullet scratching, basically it's actually bullets actually grazing the side of your ship or character. You'll see actually sparks fly off, and usually it actually increases the score. Or in Shikigami no Shiro's instance, it actually increases your firepower for as long as it's within this quote-unquote bubble. So let's go ahead and move these out of the way, and we'll go on to our next set. Okay, next up is a pretty unique game. One that actually predates, if I'm not mistaken, either it was right after Ghosts and Goblins or right before it. I actually have to look that up. But this is one that I also played when I grew up at my local arcade. And this one is Black Tiger. Another pre-CPS1 title. I prefer this actually over Ghosts and Goblins. I think it's set up a little bit better. It's an action platformer. I would say probably this kind of evolved into Magic Sword later on, because kind of the setup of the game is kind of the same in a way. You do take a couple hits, you do have armor, but it's definitely a more fantasy setting, not so much as, I guess, a undead type of, demon type of thing. There are demons in it, but definitely a pretty original title. This is the American version. The Japanese version is a little bit different. Japanese version is called Black Dragon, if I'm not mistaken. Difficulty is definitely a lot harder on the Japanese version of the board. So this is the American version. This is actually the US version, rather, and this is the one that I used to play the most. Definitely top-notch game. Not too expensive to pick up. So honestly, if you want good fun, it is JAMA. So it's not something you got to make a custom harness for or anything like that. So I'd definitely pick this one up. It's good fun. It's a little difficult and it cheats a little bit, but if you ever played Capcom games, you know how they are. So, alright. Now we're going to go back to Konami again, and this is the one that I had played several times before, just in emulation, but I'd never actually owned the board, and when one popped up, I figured I'd go ahead and scoop it up. This board actually sags pretty bad. There's a lot of weight in the center on it. You can actually probably tell it in the picture. This is a double layer board. This also has a pretty funky heat sink on it. If you notice right here, it's kind of a strange elongated one. But see what I mean? Yeah, it's got a little bit of bend to it. It's not too bad, but it actually works pretty good. It has its own custom pinout. It is a Konami pinout. You can actually buy adapters for this, but this is Time Pilot 84. This is not the original one. This one's a little bit different. It didn't have too much exposure in the arcade. It actually was kind of rare for me to see. I actually never saw it until I actually played it in emulation. A lot different than Time Pilot. I think it's a little more difficult. But like I said, I picked this one up pretty cheap. So definitely give it a try if you can. Check it out in emulation. You'd be surprised. You might actually enjoy it, especially if you like the first Time Pilot. It's an overhead shoot 'em up, kind of an overhead go anywhere. It's not not your normal vertical shoot 'em up. It's pretty much a go anywhere, a la Bosconian or the original Time Pilot sort of. But Time Pilot, I guess, is more of a side-scrolling sort of studio. I don't know. It's kind of strange. But yeah, this is Time Pilot 84, actually a pretty good title. If you can scoop it, pick it up. Alright, here we go. Here's another one. Now this one was actually quote-unquote rescued. I bought this one off of eBay. It's actually kind of a Franken CPS one. When I actually bought it off of eBay, the guy had actually pulled it out of a storage locker, had no idea if it worked, had no way of testing it, so I actually bought it for $15. He said it was a Street Fighter 2, and I figured, okay, well, I don't have Street Fighter 2, the first one, so I'll go ahead and snag this one up. And I had Champion Edition at the time. The bottom board was completely torched. It did play, but the audio is completely messed up, and I can't figure out what it is. I've actually recapped the A board, and it still is just wonky, but from what I understand, the CPS-1 A boards, which would actually be this bottom board right here, are actually pretty flaky, and they're actually pretty easy to destroy. But the positive thing of it is that I noticed when I was looking at it, this definitely at some point, it's probably a conversion. It's probably not a true field conversion. I have a feeling that an operator actually converted this on his own. But this is actually, if you notice these two ROMs right here, this is actually a hyper fighting. So I actually got a Street Fighter 2 Turbo for $15, which you really can't beat that at all. Game works great. A little dirty. I probably need to clean it up a little bit, but for what I paid for it, I cannot complain. No problems or any issues or whatever. Buddies love this game. This is literally one of my personal favorite fighting games. Heavily balanced, and plus you get to use all the bosses. They really didn't mess with the sound until Super Street Fighter, and that's one of the beefs I have with Super Street Fighter, is they actually changed the voices for a lot of characters. So to me, this one and another title that I'll talk about later is actually one of my favorite fighting games of all time. I'm not really a big fighting game fan. I'm sure you've already noticed by what you've seen so far. But this one definitely had the most playtime in the arcades. I probably played it so much. I can't even imagine how much money I spent on this. I probably spent enough to actually purchase the arcade board brand new as a kit. So, but like I said, I picked it up dirt cheap. If you're into fighting games, I recommend everybody to have this game. Usually it's in the range right now of probably about $60 to $80. So if you can pick it up, I definitely recommend this game. Alright, here we go. Now here's another Cebu title. This was actually a recent scoop. This actually worked out in a trade. I'm not really going to go into the trade details, but I think the person who traded with me knows exactly what they got, and they've already done a video on what they scooped up. This was actually rescued as well. When he actually got the board, if I'm not mistaken, the board did not work at all, and he actually had someone work on it and fix it, and it was running. And we kind of worked out a deal and a trade, and I think we both came out pretty good. You really can't see the sticker on it. Let me see if I can actually lift it to where you can actually read it. But it is a Viper Phase 1. Now, this one's a little unique. It's not a new version, and it's also not an old version, nor is it a US version or a Japanese version. This is actually the Taiwan version of Viper Phase 1. It actually says it on the title screen. From what I understand, this is pretty unique. I certainly have never seen this board. This is actually the first Viper Phase 1 I've ever seen in person. So it seems to have a mix of the old version and the new version kind of mentality. It doesn't have the actual where you pick up the weapon and you have it. It's got limited ammunition for all the special shots. Very, very nailed hard game. I've been messing with it lately, and it just infuriates me. Love the game, love the graphics, really clean, really dig the music, awesome. Also, something else to note, some of these boards, I'm kind of a big stickler on stereo sound now, but this actually has a connector on it right here, where my index finger is, and it's actually a stereo output on that. So if you have like a Blast City or other cabs, you can actually wire up stereo sound. And it definitely pumps really loud. Cebu games are definitely great sounding in stereo. They're very loud, very boomy. So, but that's Viper Phase 1, and it's probably the most recent thing I've got. But I really dig it and love the game. Alright, Alright, next up is one of the Sega hardware games. This is of one of the pretty dear to heart boards. I used to play this a lot in the arcade, and actually got it in a bulk deal. I picked up a couple of other boards at the same time as I picked this one up, and this is Golden Axe. System 16 games. A lot of them basically were notorious for being suicide boards. This one actually, I believe, uses the unencrypted set. So actually it doesn't have a suicide battery on it. But Golden Axe, I mean, pretty much everybody knows what Golden Axe is. One of the better two-player action games from Sega, especially during that era. This was a game I played heavily in the arcades. Yet another title when I decided that I wanted to start collecting arcade PCBs. I had to go out and get this one. This was one of the main ones I had to have. So Golden Axe, I mean, there's not really much more I can say about it. So if you dig it, pick it up. It's definitely worth it. Alright, and our last board for this video is a pretty unique one. This is one that I actually absolutely went after. Actually, I need to take care of something. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. I noticed that a couple of the standoffs were missing, so I wanted to go ahead and plop them back on there because it's a pretty important board to me. This one is one of my absolute favorites. This is another Sega game. This is Zaxxon. This literally is probably one of the most important games in my lifetime. This game was awesome. I remember playing this back. I think it came out in 82 or 83. I know I pretty much didn't play it until probably about 85, I believe. One of the best games that I played in the arcade. I loved the cabinet. Would love to scoop up an original cabinet. It actually had a pretty unique joystick on it. But the sound of it, just the space sound, it sounds hokey now. If you actually hear it, it's just a really loud, but an awesome, awesome game. It's Zaxxon, one of the few three-quarter view shoot-em-ups. Definitely inspired a fantastic Neo Geo MVS title, Viewpoint. But this is the granddaddy of it all as far as the three-quarter isometrical shoot-em-up is concerned. It's Zaxxon. It's by Sega. Just to me, the company could do no wrong then. So this is definitely one that's really, really dear to my heart. I actually picked this one up. It was untested, but it also came with a manual, which is freaking huge. But I thought that was a really great find. It actually had all the schematics and everything in it, so if there's ever any issues with it, I could actually work on it. It does use a custom pinout. I have built a harness for it. It's pretty unique in how it is because it needs separate power and plus an edge connector. This game, I can't even begin to even convey how important this game was into my whole thing and my entry into the foray of shoot-em-ups. This and Galaga are probably the two top-notch ones. Okay, well, that's about it, guys, for this one. I've got about 20 seconds left. I just want to thank you guys for watching this second video. I will have probably a couple more videos set up here pretty soon, but I wanted to go and get this one out of the way. And I hope you guys enjoyed what I've got to show for you. Alright, have a good one.